Hi everyone, and warmly welcome to our podcast, An Inclusive Labour Market, with us at Mittliv and our super special guest that will join us for talks about D&I. And the purpose of this interview series is to get behind the scenes and learn more about D&I from an CEO perspective. And you will have the chance to meet some amazing CEOs in some of the largest companies and get their view on why D&I and how walk the talk. But for you who doesn't know much about us or nothing at all, we have been around with Mittliv since we founded it 2008. And our vision is to work for an inclusive society and a labor market that values diversity. So if you want to learn more about us, you can check out our homepage, mittliv.com. And today we have the big honor to have a true role model joining us for this conversation and who knows a lot about leadership as CEO for Kicks. And warmly welcome Freddy Sobin. How are you today?
I'm great, Sofia. I'm great. I woke up in a fantastic winter day here in Stockholm. I'm energized, motivated to get going, and really looking forward to our talk right now.
Thank you. But as a leader, I'm just curious, is there any room for you to have a bad day? Or how do you rewire your brain when waking up in a less good mood?
Well, I mean, being a CEO, you're only human, right? But if you have a bad day, you need to either leave it at home when you walk out the door, or take it with you back home when you come back. But I think during the workday, there's really no room for that.
No.
You need to be on your toes. You need to, I think, be positive and optimistic and really motivate people all day long, right? So you need to keep that inside, and I think, take it afterwards instead.
Yeah. So I'm really curious a bit of your journey, if you'd like to share some of the big milestones in your life that actually brought you to the role as CEO for Kicks. What has been the big milestones in life, you think?
Well, I think, from a career perspective, I think my first job was just kind of by accident. I joined an e-commerce startup back in 2005, 30.se. And that was just by chance. It was, 2 months old company. We started from scratch. It was just a fantastic journey. E-commerce was kind of, the first boom and wave was kind of, a failure. So nobody really believed in it. We were selling home appliances, white goods online. Nobody believed that would work either, logistics wise. So I think that kind of put me on the kind of digital and e-commerce journey. And after that, it's been a few different companies, both, as CEO, but also from a board perspective. And ultimately, it led me here to Kicks and the Axel Johnson Group.
That's interesting. But is this something like back before you started your professional career that you see is the reason or has taken you forward as a leader?
I think leadership is something you always kind of have to train. You need to develop within and learn. And it's, I think it's all about self-insight. You need to know yourself, who you are. Otherwise, it's going to be a difficult journey, I think, as a leader. I did work some at summer camps and have had that kind of leadership training early on. So that might have helped, definitely. But I think one of the greatest things in life, the real life changer that helped me in my leadership, was also getting kids, right?
It is.
I think that's a great training, actually.
They always bring you down to earth.
Oh, yes. And
question everything we do. You have to be solution-minded every day when you wake up. So it's a really good training. But how do you think D&I has a link to your choices in your professional career?
Well, I think it's recent years. It's more when I've started thinking about it, really like diversity and inclusion. But I think it's been with me for quite some time. If you look at just my hair color, kind of, growing up in the 80s, having black hair in Sweden, I very often got the question, where are you from? And it could be, riding the bus. It could be, in very different situations and contexts, people I didn't even know, but they still asked me somehow. And then it was like, oh, you speak really well Swedish. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm born here. So are my parents. So, but yeah, sure. And I think that's kind of a feeling that I've had for a long time. I didn't feel excluded in any way, but just understanding how it might feel to get that kind of a question and me looked at it that way. I think I've had that with me for a long time. And also, I think really when joining the Axel Johnson group and kind of, the view that the companies and, corporations are a force for good in society. And I think that really resonates well with me. Because I might not have that much faith for our politicians to solve these issues. I think we as companies can do so much more and have to do so much more. So I think that there are kind of various perspectives. And also, in one of my previous companies where I was CEO, we were active in 15 countries. So it was the Nordics, the Baltics, Central Eastern Europe. So it was a lot of different cultures, different people, and kind of a lot of clashing as well between cultures. But when we got that to work, when we got it to be one company, one culture, I saw the fantastic force and the power in that. So that was kind of, seeing the diversity aspect when it works at its best, right?
Yeah. And do you have any like very hands-on cases where you actually can see correlations between profitability and diversity somehow?
I mean, I actually think Kicks is the best example where I am at right now. So I mean, we measure it in various ways, right? But I think we have 230 stores in 3 countries right now, and I think the stores that we see are working the best are the stores with diverse teams. They are the stores where we meet the local market, the local customers, and the local society as they are.
Yeah.
Meaning we are representative also in our staffing and in our workforce. And I think that mirroring is really, because you need to recognize yourself also, with the seller, with the salesperson. So I think that kind of, that has been great to see in Kicks, where we really see it being a strong correlation with profitability.
And also, I'm a bit curious about, you have an owner with very strong values. Is that important for you, that the values is like going through the board, the owners, and the organization? Do you choose your roles after the values around the organization you take a leadership in?
Well, I don't think I had that aspect before, having this role actually, but I definitely will take it with me afterwards. Because it is definitely so much easier to work, as a CEO in a company when the owners and the board is fully committed to both sustainability from a climate and, environmental perspective, but also social responsibility. And I think the two are really two sides of the same coin. So when you kind of, also get a positive pressure from above that, you're expected to work with these topics. I think it's just fantastic. Because I've been in companies also where it has become kind of more of a budget question, we'd love to do it, but we can't afford it right now. We'll do it next year instead. But so I think that's really something I'll take with me, if you can get that alignment from the top down, it's just great. And I mean, we have monthly town hall meetings with the entire company at Kicks, where we talk about different things and have everybody updated. And when we talk about sustainability, social responsibility, I mean, there's just so much engagement and positivity and energy. So I think it's really a topic that's really, in modern times, it's just so relevant to talk about it. So also to strengthen us as an employer. Our employees expect us to work with these questions, and that
that's pretty amazing. It's not so common, you think? They do stick out with that, maybe more and more become aware of how important it is, but still they are the pushers to inspire more, to do more, maybe.
Maybe. I think maybe, we're active in the beauty industry, right? And I think that's something very individual, personal. So a few years ago, we actually formulated a purpose to be a truly purpose-driven company. And for us, it was just 3 simple words that are so powerful: set beauty free. Meaning that, beauty is something that comes from within. It's something that's individual. And that our purpose here is to help each and every customer to feel beautiful just as they are. So really taking on a big, diversity kind of commitment in that, I feel, as one aspect of that purpose.
That's cool. But would you like to share some about what are the real tools that you use to actually develop an inclusive organizational culture? Because I think the most common question we get at Mittliv is, how do we do this? When is it successful? So it would be, what do you do at Kicks?
Well, I mean, just like we said before, I think if it really comes from the owners and the board, it's even more so powerful. So we actually have, reporting on a few KPIs with this to the board each quarter. So I think that's really taking it serious. And I think having that kind of a tracking and measurement tool in place for various perspectives, the ones at least that you're allowed to measure, I think can really help you. So we do measure, for example, diversity in some aspects. And that's also something that we talk about once again in our, monthly town hall meetings with all staff, that, this is our diversity and inclusion strategy. This is right now how we're tracking on our KPIs and our goals to get there. So we're talking about that, regularly. So it's not like a one-time, one-off thing that we talk about, but we come back to that every year. So we really show them that we don't only talk the talk, but we walk the walk. So I think that is really, show them that you mean business, that you want this, but also give them the tools. But of course, how are we supposed to do this? Well, for once, we are now actually educating all our leaders on how to recruit in a more, with diversity and inclusion in mind as well, to take away kind of the biases that are there. They might be unaware of, but still are there, etc. So quite those kind of concrete tools, talk about it openly, often, and be hands-on.
That's super nice. And what do you think is the number one inclusive behavior leadership skill that is crucial to get this work done?
I think you just need to have a very open mind and really see the strength in diversity. Seeing, and we did actually in the management team here, we had group development to get us tighter as a group and with an external help. And we did a few trainings where it was so clear that, coming from various backgrounds, experiences, perspectives, helped us to actually solve some of these kind of, business cases or things that we were presented together in a much better way than we did individually. So when presenting the solution one by one, we had very different ways of looking at it and solving it. But when we took all of the pieces together, it was so much better. Just seeing it that we as a group also in a diverse perspective were stronger. So I think you can really prove that, get people to understand that. Because I think being non-diverse, non-inclusive, if you will, is unfortunately quite easy. Because, looking yourself in the mirror in another person, seeing yourself, it's quite easy just to nodding your head. You agree. It's easy to talk to them because, there's no kind of, there's no conflict. There's no real, pain points. There's no friction. But I think if it's too easy, I think, you should have kind of an alarm clock in your head. This, we're missing something here. That kind of positive dynamic that you need to have and coming from various backgrounds.
And I've actually heard a sentence that said that we need to be comfortable to be uncomfortable as leaders. So maybe there is something in that. But what would you say are the typical pitfalls for an organization?
Well, I mean, that's one of them. Looking when you recruit, you're looking for someone that's quite similar to yourself, because you feel comfortable with that, and you kind of, so I think that's one. Take away that kind of a bias and make everyone that's in a recruiting position aware of that. I think that's really crucial. And really, have the kind of, the 4I principle that someone above you also have to, meet the one you're recruiting and approve that. So I think that's one. I mean, other pitfalls is just talking about it, not doing it. I think that just doesn't hold up anymore. If you do that, then don't do it at all. Don't talk about it even, So I think, you need to be very concrete about it. And also, I think you also need to be very, brave and open about, the failures within this. Because of course, we don't do it right all the time, and we do things wrong. Be open about that.
Yeah.
And also discuss, what did we learn and what, do we bring with us for the future?
Mm.
So I
And
think those are some of the things. And coming from a retail organization with many stores and headquarters, I mean, to be very transparent, we are better in diversity in our stores than we actually are in our headquarters. And I think for us, that's a big weakness. And
yeah.
that's something that we are discussing, why is it like that? What can we actually do about it? Because I think that's a bit dangerous.
Yeah. And how do you tackle when it doesn't work in the organization? How do you, for example, tackle if there are cases about discrimination or racism or so? What happens then within Kicks?
Well, I mean, we've had, we have a whistleblower system, of course. So some top errands might come up that way. Otherwise, I can get reports of something not working in conflict, etc. But we have really, a zero tolerance policy for that, and it's something that, either HR or me or the direct leader of that person will definitely take care of quickly. So as long as we're aware of it and we get the information of something's not right here, we're not going to wait and sit around. We're going to actively go after it. Because once again, walk the walk. You need to show that if you say this, you need to act like that as well. You need to show that this is not okay.
No,
it's
easy
just so
to
important.
talk.
Yeah, too easy.
Too easy. And I'm also curious about when we look at the big trends ahead, like the mega trends that impacts our societies, economies, and us as individuals, no matter we want it or not. What trends do you see in your business that forces you to work with D&I?
Well, I think that there's I think social media is kind of makes consumer trends go so fast, but it also enables consumers to be so open about their opinions about you as a company and as a retailer and also online. So I think that really it really forces us to always be on our toes. And we can't hide because everything is out there, and if we don't act accordingly, the customers will let us know, right? And we are here for our customers. Ultimately, that's what it's all about for us. So I think that's kind of one, and social media has been here for a long time now, but I think is a big change in the market for retail companies, that there's nowhere to hide anymore. You're no longer in control of kind of the PR image of your company, because if you do it wrong, worst come to worst, it's going to be a PR storm in social media, and you just don't want that. So I actually think that's a good thing, kind of a mega trend that's forced a lot of companies to once again walk the walk, not only.
Exactly. And we got a question because I sent it out at LinkedIn, a question if anyone wanted to ask you something special. So we got a question about how do you think Kicks would have looked like today if you started 10 years earlier with your work?
Wow, a good question. Well, I mean, from a D&I perspective, we would, have definitely come, a further way. I think we're still kind of at the starting point. I think we have it in our DNA to some degree in our company, but we are still kind of also working and struggling with, what are the best ways? What are we allowed to measure? How can we measure this? Because I'm a firm believer in data, and what gets measured gets done if you follow up on it. And I think that's something that we're kind of struggling with and we need to get better at. I also think, really, if it's all about, if you talk about it, if you educate people, it's going to be eventually kind of a tidal wave in itself. And we're not building up for that tidal wave, but it's not really there yet in the company. So we're kind of, waiting for the real tipping point where this really, flows over all of us. And, if I would have started earlier, I think we would have been at that kind of, tipping point already. And we would have seen even greater results.
Yeah. And hopefully we are there before 10 years. So hopefully it takes shorter time than 10 years ahead.
Yeah, but also, I mean, going back, and I think just in business, 10 years ago, did we even talk about diversity and inclusion? I don't really think so. At least not in Sweden and the Nordics in this way that we are today.
No.
So I think it's also about getting the acceptance and getting it out there broadly.
Yeah. That's so true, because when I started Mittliv 2008, companies only talked about D&I as like a small CSR question somewhere out there in the company, and you preferred to support with your money and budget into other countries in small projects. And now we talk about D&I out from an investor perspective, like board management groups. It's a whole other mindset around D&I now. So it's really interesting to see how this develop and
I would say you were lucky if you had an HR department that were kind of working with D&I even.
Yeah.
So once again, I think a lot has really happened. In the last few years only.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of early days, even though it shouldn't be.
No, exactly. But I'm also curious, because 2 years ago, we started a movement within Mittliv that is called CEOs for D&I. And you joined the second group that is up running now. We work together with 5 other amazing CEOs in the group. And you are designing an action program together that we will launch at our symposium, the 23rd of March. We will not talk much about that now, because that will be a surprise at the symposium. But why did you join this movement, Freddy? And what do you see so far? How important is it as the role of CEO to approach this, you think, and go together to push this?
Yeah, well, I think from my perspective, the driving force was that we were already working with this. But getting the possibility to talk to other CEOs and really understand how they are working with it, share experiences, best practice, knowledge, discuss it. What are the pitfalls like we've been discussing? What are the things that you can do? How does the toolbox actually look like out there? I think that has been the greatest thing. Because once again, I mean, if I am to not only talk but also walk the walk, the more I understand, the more I kind of just get that from others as well, what they are doing. I think that's a great thing, and then I can take it with me into my company and spread it out there. So I think that has really been a strength in the program. And once again, for me, it was just the easiest question to say yes to if I wanted to join. And I'm very happy that I did.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. But now I'm also curious about if you would choose number one most important action to pass on to other organizations and specifically other CEOs, what would that be?
I would actually say 2 things, but one thing is really, read about it or talk to other CEOs about it, but understand what D&I is, and what does it actually entail, and because it's easy just to throw words around, but not really understand what they mean in a very fundamental way. So I think really understanding the topic is really number one. And I think number 2, and it's part of that, it's kind of understanding that if you really are open and willing to work with this, you need to understand what that will mean for you as a CEO and for you as a company. And you need to fully commit, because you can't do it half-hearted, and you can't only have it on a pretty PowerPoint for the board. So you need to kind of go all in. You need to dare to do it and be open about it in the company. But that will also put a lot of pressure on you to deliver on it. So I think really understand what it is and be ready to fully commit.
Yeah, and that makes me curious about.
That's going to be great.
That's perfect, but still we see a lot of leaders and CEOs who are the no-sayers, who doesn't understand really why this is so important. How do we bring those on board, you think?
Well, I think we need to show them even more, great examples of actually, how positive this is also for your bottom line, for your business, for your
Exactly.
employer brand, and ultimately also for customers.
Mm.
So I think you need to show them kind of, the real value. And it's not only something pretty on the paper. It's not only about, doing something that's maybe more of a goodwill, gesture. This also has very concrete value. And I think that's nothing to be ashamed about. I think that's just, fantastic. If we can do good and create value out of that, that's the best of two worlds, right?
It is.
So if we can get more CEOs to understand that, I think the movement and that will build up to this kind of tidal wave and tipping point will come sooner rather than later.
So let's see what we can do ahead with our movement CEOs for D&I to inspire more to do more. But thank you, Freddy. You're a true inspiration, and we're so happy to have this conversation, since we know many will listen and get inspired and actually get some hands-on tools around D&I. So that is important too. So have a great day, and thank you again. Yeah, let's wrap this up by saying that be the change we want to see, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah,
many
thank
thanks,
you.
Sofia. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Bye-bye.